Unstoppable Women is going to be the go-to event for women in business. So if you haven't got your ticket yet, what are you waiting for? The incredible speakers that I've announced so far are so worth getting in the room with. Proximity is incredible power. If you can't afford to work with them, it's time to get yourself in the room so you can connect with them and learn from them. Plus, we are going to be curating some incredible connections and exercises and experiences in order for you to grow and expand into your next level version self. So if you want to be in the room, book your tickets now. VIPs are running out. There are not many left. And general tickets are also on sale. Plus, we're bringing out a Bring a Bestie. So if you want to grab your tickets now, you'll find the link in the show notes. And I cannot wait to see you on the 29th of August at the Brisbane Entertainment and Convention Centre as we bring down the house with such an incredible event. Welcome to the Next Level Life podcast with Christine Corcoran. This podcast is made for the powerhouse businesswomen who are ready to ignite their fullest potential. This is where we will dive deep into the mindset breakthroughs and sprinkle in some kick up the butt motivation so you can scale your business with confidence and clarity. Whether you're craving more income, impact, or inspiration, this podcast will be your ultimate resource for all things next level. Listen in as we have authentic conversations with game-changing female entrepreneurs as we reveal the secrets of what it takes to rise and thrive. So go ahead, ignite your inner fire, and let's get you taking massive aligned action. Are you ready to elevate? Let's go. Welcome back to the Next Level Life podcast. I'm so excited for my next guest. I feel like this should have happened so much, like so many months ago, so many years ago. I can't believe it's taken us this long to make this happen. But I have invited the beautiful Danni Vee to come and join me, and we've been connected for such a long time. We've both been each other's clients, which has been so cool. And we've now become friends, and she's such an incredible coach. And so I wanted to bring her on and talk about leadership. So Danni, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Christine.
I can't believe it's taken this long for us
I
to
know,
organize
I'm
this.
so
Like,
excited to be here. So excited.
we would spend so much time chatting and talking in between, like even our own sessions. So Danni was a client of mine. She's been a part of the Next Level Mastermind. And then I've been a PT client of hers before her now evolving into the space that she's in now with leadership. And we've evolved even as coaches together, which has been so
Mm,
beautiful to see. So Danni, can you tell us a little bit about your journey? Because you've been in leadership in general for a long time. And so tell
mm.
us a little bit about your journey in business.
Yeah, so I've actually been a business owner for over 25 years now, which is a long time.
But we look
Uh,
so young.
I know. That's why people can't believe it.
Yeah, totally.
And so I actually started out as running a piano teaching school all over Brisbane. I used to teach in the Catholic primary schools. I studied classical piano at the Conservatorium of Music, and I did that for many, many years. And when I fell pregnant with my first child, I just had this complete change of life. I wanted to do something different. I wanted to be someone different because I was like changing my identity into a mum. So I started studying my health and fitness, and I started up a mother's health and wellness business. And so that really just started out as like a small little boot camp thing. And then I brought in babysitters. And I guess this is really when the leadership started rumbling. Of course, when I ran the really successful piano teaching business, I was a leader within myself. And I did actually hire some staff, but I was very young then. And it was just sort of a messy type of thing. And this is, I guess, the evolution of leadership, isn't it? And then when I stepped into the health and wellness business, I quickly found out that my clients actually needed mindset help rather than fitness. So then I started my NLP and I became an NLP practitioner. And I really started bringing mindset into every part of my business and really started becoming a leader within myself. So that inner authority that, you and I speak about all the time. And then as that morphed and grew, I started working with a lot of business owners and just speaking about mindset and things like that. And then when COVID hit, I had to completely pivot my business. And I moved into online for the PT stuff. And then I also was asked to speak in containers or organizations overseas because they didn't have to pay for me to fly anymore. Everything was virtual, it was really easy. And that's when I became really passionate about speaking about to leaders myself because I knew then that I could speak to these leaders, I could teach them to have that inner authority, and then that would trickle down into all their people and also going into the home life, really, especially during that COVID period.
Mm.
And then, yeah, so that's morphed and grown. And then now, like, I'm just so blessed. I work with really large organizations. I have a mastermind, I have a membership, and then I still get to do the PT work, like just a little bit on the side. And it's just like, it's just all my passions in one.
I love that. I love that you shared that you get to actually do all part of that and all the passions in one, because I think sometimes in business it's almost like we can get stuck in this one space and thinking, oh no, I have to just do the one thing. But you've
Mm.
worked out a way to actually blend all three. Well, not actually or blend them, but actually still be able to do all three. How does that even work while you're also running a family?
A lot of self-leadership and radical responsibility. I just have to be responsible. And honestly, it's not all rainbows and butterflies. I would be lying to say that it's easy. There's days, a lot of days that I'm getting up at 3:30 in the morning to fit everything in. And, because movement's really important for my mental well-being. So I have to make sure that I'm doing that, most days every week. I ensure that I've got time to do the building of the business as well. I'm actually launching a podcast next week.
Oh my
So
goodness,
that's really
amazing.
exciting. Yeah. And, just making time for that type of thing is really important. So having that structure, having that time frames and things like that.
Yeah, amazing. And so
Mm.
you mentioned a little bit about the inner authority. Can we start
Mhm.
there? Can you tell us,
Mhm.
what does that even mean? For someone who's listening, never heard these terms before, what does that mean?
It's really knowing who you truly are. So there's three pillars that I speak about with this, and that's self-respect, self-acceptance, and self-love. And when you really nail what that means to you, you have that inner authority where you lead from within instead of looking for that external validation. And so self-acceptance looks like really not taking judgment of where you are right now. This is actually a big thing that you taught me, Christine, is like not judging for where you are, because, for someone like me, which Christine knows very well, I'm always wanting to be better. I want to improve myself. I want to be better than what I am today. And learning to really not judge where I am today is really helping you lead with that inner authority. Yeah. And self-respect is just, if you don't respect yourself, nobody else is going to respect you fully because you're not going to be able to accept that respect. So respecting your time, setting boundaries for yourself and for others as well. And of course, self-love, taking that time to really embrace who you truly are and, doing that mirror work, understanding that you are exactly who you are meant to be.
Yeah. This is the most powerful work that you can do, honestly. Like, I feel
Hmm.
like it's something that every single woman needs to go through in order for them to get to a stage in their life where they're, again, not looking to others externally for validation. They're not stressing about what they look like or what other people think of them. And also having the boundaries. Like, the respect piece is massive. And I think sometimes we have so much conditioning from the past that affects us in our ability to even have that self-respect or have those boundaries in place. And I feel like, there is a lot of conditioning for us to not love ourselves, that we always have to keep fixing and changing. I'd love for you to bring this into the leadership space for us. What are you noticing with the leaders that you work with? How does this show up for them in their space?
Definitely. So they shrink down and they don't actually come to, like, I guess, the boardroom with the voice and the strong authority that they really have within themselves because they're judging themselves, so they're not accepting themselves. So it's showing up as really shrinking down to not be as powerful as they could be. It also shows up as, not having a team of people. So if you've got a team, it also shows up as not having a team that actually do what you want them to do because you don't know how to communicate that. So it's loss of language and communication as well. And then the other thing that I really find is that, I'm a big believer that we all should be leaders. It's not just, the large organizations I work with. I work with business owners that don't have staff as well. And being a self leader it really shows up when you're not using that self leadership. It shows up that you just don't have any boundaries. You're a people pleaser. You're always bending yourself for others and then burnt out, overwhelm, all of those things that come with all of that.
Oh, 100%. Speaking my language. And I feel like as well, there's that piece around that self leadership. Like, as business owners, we have to motivate ourselves. Like, there's no one else telling us what to do. There's no KPIs that other people set. We have to motivate ourselves. And I think that we've been taught a lot when it comes to motivation, a lot from a masculine space. Would you agree? Like, we're
Mhm.
constantly, when it comes to motivation, it's push, it's be hard on ourselves, it's yell at ourselves, berate ourselves, which actually erodes self love and self acceptance. Wouldn't you? And self respect,
Yeah,
actually, when you think about it.
all
Would
of
you
them.
agree?
Yeah, completely agree. And then that's understanding what feminine and masculine energy looks like. Carl Jung is such an incredible man. I just love everything that he came to the world with his neuroscience and really understanding that, having that balance as well, because I actually don't believe in motivation. I don't think motivation is a thing. It's discipline. So it's that radical responsibility. You can't always motivate yourself, but you can always have discipline. And
Mm.
so really finding that discipline, which is masculine. So what is that side of you, of the feminine, that you could balance it out with? Well, you could use your intuition. You could use that intuitive side of you as, how am I going to discipline myself to get to that point?
Mm. And we can discipline ourselves with love. We don't have to
Hmm.
discipline ourselves with hate, right? And I would
Yeah.
imagine you would see this in the body space as well, like from the PT space around how we're constantly being told to like judge ourselves or hate ourselves enough to make a change. Whereas that
Mm.
doesn't work, right? It doesn't actually get us very far.
No, and your body knows. So if you love yourself into moving your body, you do it because you want to make yourself feel better and find that deep why. Like that's something I'm very passionate about speaking to my PT clients about, is that, you're here to move your body and make yourself feel better. So if you're wanting to punish your body, it's actually going to react to that. Like your body knows. That book, The Body Keeps the Score, is an incredible book to read if you want to learn more deeper about that. But yeah, just really loving yourself, and it's the thoughts and the words that you're saying to yourself as well while you're doing that. So that discipline, being kind to yourself, it's back to that self-acceptance, being kind to yourself for where you are to move forward when you need to.
Mm. And so you mentioned a little bit earlier around radical responsibility. Can you talk us through your concept around this? Because I think sometimes as coaches, and I want to be conscious of like people listening, as coaches, we use a lot of random language.
Yeah, it's
And
true.
and it means a lot to us, right? Because we understand the concept and we understand what it's inspired to do. But when it comes to radical responsibility, what does that mean? What does that mean to you?
It's really ownership of self. So ownership of where you are, of what you do, the mistakes you make, ownership of the decisions that you make, and really not putting the blame on others, because we've got a choice of where we are. Every instance of life that you're in, it's a choice that you've made. And sometimes that's really hard to actually take, because you think, oh my goodness, this isn't my fault. Well, you chose to be in that moment then and there. So taking really radical responsibility about that. And when you do take that ownership and that radical responsibility, it gives you a choice. And so that's what I really like about that radical responsibility. It's going to give you a choice because you're taking ownership of where you are, and you can change that. So you can reframe it, you can start, making different choices.
Mm, I love that. And it always comes back to creating more choice. And yet, we've just got to be conscious there, I think, as well, when we speak about this, because sometimes when we think about taking radical responsibility, sometimes people then could then not only just, especially when we're talking about not blaming others, they can blame themselves. And that doesn't
Mm,
help either, right? So
no.
I'm also hearing from you that it's almost like we're coming to a level of acceptance with it to be like, well, that was the decisions, but what can I learn from that in order to change my future decisions? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and that really goes back to what you were saying about that masculine and feminine energy. Like lean into that love and empathy for yourself, and really be okay with where you are, and that self-acceptance. Yeah, definitely. Mm.
So talk us through the leaders that you work with. Like, are you experiencing that some leaders or some business owners that come to you have not really heard any of this and it's so new to them? So, like, how do they perceive leadership in the world?
Yeah, so the way that I teach leadership, I think I'm actually really surprised with how the world's turning. Like a lot of business owners and leaders are really starting to lean into that holistic way of really serving themselves.
That's great.
Yeah, it's been a big shift in the last few years. I do find though that, they don't really understand that, well, not all of them, but there's a big majority that don't really understand that leadership starts from within. So they're looking for the outside. Why is my team not doing this? Why can't I communicate that? And so they learn how to actually have that inner authority again and learn the communication and language. So, when you learn communication and language, you learn how to speak to the person in front of you. So that's a big thing that I teach my leaders and business owners is, who are you speaking to? Can you change the way that you're saying that so that they can receive it?
Mm.
And yeah, I'm very passionate about communication and language when it comes to that. Like it's a big thing for leaders.
Oh, 100%. I
Mm,
always always have that saying in my mind whenever I think about leadership, especially coming from corporate myself.
yeah.
I always used to say the fish rots from the head.
Oh, I
And
love that.
I know it sounds horrendous, but it actually is so true that, like, if you think about leadership, right, we think about the corporate structure. If the leader is not leading well, they're not having their own inner authority and they're not leading from a place of actually wanting to support their people and understand that they are the reflection of their people, that, you know, I always look upwards, right? So if the team isn't performing, it's not the team's fault, it's the leader's fault. And that's again having radical responsibility. And how can we look to that leader and be like, yes, how do we improve yourself in order for the team to then be able to be improved? Because anytime it's always a red flag, right? I was talking to friends of mine on the weekend, and one of my friends who's in a corporate job, and they were saying like they've had a huge middle management leave, like lots of them leave. And I'm like, yeah, you got to look above for that. There's a reason for that. And so I love that you're helping them explore that on a whole new level, because it is, you're right, it's that communication piece, it's the allowing them to really look within themselves, because leadership has changed so much
Mm.
over the last 20 years that if people keep leading from the old masculine way of just do what I say, it doesn't work anymore, right? Like people up and coming younger generations, they're coming in going, well, I'm not here for that. And they just quit.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's already starting to happen so
Yeah.
much. Yeah.
So tell us about some of the problems that you experience with the business owners or leaders that you're working with and how you navigate some of those challenges.
So I guess, like I said, one of the big problems is not being able to communicate with their team, or even, business owners that don't have a team, their clients, and being able to overcome conflict resolution and stuff like that. Because I find that if you don't have that inner self-love and that inner authority, conflict is really quite confronting. So you come at it at that masculine energy, and I'm going to fight it. And so that's one of the big problems that I find that comes across. And like for you, like this is your jam is money mindset. Then when the objections come up, you can come across it as that masculine energy as well, because it's kind of like a defense mechanism,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. Another big thing that comes up for me is also just understanding what people want. So if you're always looking for the outside, if that makes sense, so you're always looking for that external recognition, external, it's very focused on how can I please others instead of how can I help others.
Mm,
Does that make sense? So
yeah.
when I help them shift that, and like, they lead from a place of service, they really can actively listen to their clients or their team, or a part of their business owners. There might be a partnership or something like that. Then they start understanding how they can serve instead of like, how can I
Or trying
bleed
to be
all of my
right.
pleasing over
Yeah.
you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
or trying to be right, or trying to be the one that looks like they know what they're talking about. Like it's actually more from a place of curiosity and awareness to be like, okay, how can we come to the solution together rather than it be a conflict? Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and being okay with being vulnerable as well. Like, when you have made a mistake, owning up to that, like again,
Mm.
that radical responsibility, that self-ownership, like, but also when you own up to that, showing the lesson you've learned, so then it shows that you're moving forward through it, so everybody else can come with you.
Oh, I love that so
Mm.
much. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah, I wish that my past leaders had had that ability to do that, because I think you learn so much through the way that they present themselves and handle themselves through that challenge, those challenging times as an employee, right? You see that. And if they don't handle that well, oh my gosh, that can like erode the relationship for sure. Like I've seen that happen time and time again, where they've handled things really badly and taken offense to it, taken it personal when really it actually wasn't about them at all.
Yeah, exactly. And then don't even speak about it. So it's always this underlying thing that's never been dealt with. So imagine that vulnerability coming out and saying, this is a mistake I've made. These are the lessons I've learned. So this is what we're going to be doing moving forward. It'd be
That's
so much
really
respect.
so
Yeah.
much respect. Oh my gosh, and such strength. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so tell us about a little bit more about the evolution that you see from a leader who goes through this phase of understanding the inner authority, doing the work that it actually takes to unpack that and start to implement those changes within their business and or within the organization. Talk us through the evolution that you see.
So I guess I'll speak about one client that I have at the moment, because she's been working with me for about 18 months, and she's been a private client, she's been in my mastermind, and it's been phenomenal, this stepping into leadership that she's moved through. And so when she first came to me, she was very very much didn't have a voice. She didn't want to speak about herself. It would be so nerve-wracking going to a networking event because she was always worried about people judging her, and she'd never show up as herself. And so the evolution of working through those limiting beliefs, understanding what she wanted to be. So finding those aligned goals, so those inner goals instead of the external goals, if that makes sense. And then as she's moved through all of that, just recently, I actually got a text message from her last week, and she went to this networking event. She goes, I just walked in and I could feel that my presence was like seen. And, she was able to speak about her business so easily. And I think she got a client out of being at that event. And, she says, I've never gone to an event and felt so relaxed and happy. And
Wow.
so, but she really does. I can feel it when she walks into a room now. She's just got this authority about her that's so respected by everybody around her. And it's just
Oh,
showing up in like business, like her business is exploding. She's developing her own personal brand now. So it's just level upon level. And as you keep on, moving into that leadership, you just keep expanding within yourself, though. If it's
mm.
not on the outside.
Oh, so good. And so what I'm hearing from you too is this element of like how it sounds like there was an element of people pleasing before, or an
Oh,
element of where
not
she was
even
trying to
element.
please other
It was a
people.
deep, deep
Yeah.
belief.
Yeah.
A deep, deep belief.
And it's funny
Yeah.
because, like, as I'm coming as a recovering people pleaser myself, you
Hmm.
think like when you consistently try to please other people that they'll then respect you, but it actually doesn't bloody work.
No, it's just they just trample all over your boundaries and you just keep on letting them do it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true.
And then when you find that inner self-respect and then you actually set your own clear boundaries, then they respect you and you're like, what have I been doing my whole entire life?
It can be such a scary journey though too, right? Because when you do start setting those boundaries, people do fall away. Like I said to you, this journey isn't rainbows and butterflies. People fall away, and it's like a mourning process. As you become, start being the woman you were always meant to be, it can be like going through a mourning, like that change curve, because you do have to let things go.
Mm. You're
Mm.
right. And honestly, like I've gone through that so many times
Oh,
and
me
it is
too.
hard every single time.
Yeah.
And yet, I think one of the biggest things I always learn through it is like how I evolve as well as a person and what I'm allowing myself to receive and what I'm allowing into my life. Because
Mm.
what you let go of is sometimes, yes, there's parts of it that was good and parts of it that you really enjoyed with that person. And sometimes you have to have that self-awareness to be like, was that relationship good because of what they brought to the relationship or friendship? Or was it actually because you like made it good? Like
Hmm.
I'm trying to explain what I mean, but like I heard someone else talking about it and it was in a dating analogy and it was like a TikTok video and she was saying how like I she was like I look for someone who's entertaining or who is funny. And she's like, but what I realized that every time that got into a relationship with someone, it was actually not because they were funny, it was because I was funny and then I just enjoyed and made myself laugh and then they laughed and I thought we were having a good time. Right? When you
It's so
think
true.
yeah. And so sometimes you have to realize too, like when you think about the friendships, I'm a big believer of like having that give and take and having, the support go both ways. And sometimes you don't realize, sometimes as a people pleaser or a rescuer, you give so much of yourself
Ugh.
to make the relationship good that you have eroded so much of your own boundaries and so much of what you should have been giving, really like, sorry, I'm saying this wrong. Like you erode so much of your own self-worth and your own self-respect by giving so much of yourself to the other person just to make the relationship work when really
Hmm.
they're not giving. They're not giving it all, they just continuously take. And I know that
Hmm.
you've experienced this before as
Oh,
well.
deeply.
Yeah.
Deeply. I know exactly what you're saying. And I guess it just all comes back to that self-respect and self-acceptance because, when I was in those relationships, I didn't fully accept myself. I was always judging myself. Like you were talking about the rescuer and the people pleaser, like, that persecutor in your mind, that mean girl in your mind was always telling you, well, if you just try harder, if you just try more, you're going to get more and, they're going to like you more. And so you just always keep that
Mm,
tie going.
yeah.
And yeah, once you step away from that, it is really empowering. Like you were saying,
Mm,
it really does bring power within yourself. Yeah.
yeah. And it is sad to let those like relationships go. But I think what it does do is actually open you up to better relationships, that people that are
Hmm.
actually willing to meet you where you're at. And I feel like I've had that evolution happen so much throughout my business journey. And we must say too, like this impacts your business on so many levels, like the types
Hmm.
of clients that you attract and what you deal with in different containers that you run or the relationships you have become codependent with your clients. And that doesn't serve you at all. Like I remember the early stages of my business, that's honestly, I experienced that so much that again, I was doing the same thing where I was like, if I just keep giving and then proving
Hmm.
my worth, right, then the relationship will get better. But it wasn't until I actually worked through releasing that and really working on the wound of the people pleasing and where that came from and healed that part of myself in order for me to be able to set those clear boundaries and believe that I was worthy of receiving what I was worth. Like
Hmm.
I'm receiving a better relationship and receiving better clients and, allowing myself to really stand strong in those boundaries. And like you said, like it is an evolution. Like there's no better word for it, evolution, because you evolve and you grow and it's hard and you have rebirths and you have deaths and like it's
Oh
full
my
on.
goodness, that's so true. It's so true. And it's funny how you say about, the clients that you attract as well, because I know, especially I found that in my PT business, and I was going through so many evolutions in my PT business. And, there was two instances that the exact same thing happened. And when the second time it happened, that was like the light bulb moment of like, this is the lesson. I need to take ownership of this. It's not them, it's me. And that's
Yeah.
where I'm saying, like, it's not nice to realize that,
Yeah.
these horrible things and these people are being so unkind to you because you've allowed it and they think that they
Mm.
can. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's very very exciting and confronting at the same time.
And I imagine that you're very similar to me, that you then attract clients that are now going through that.
Yeah.
Like, because we've healed it, right? And we're able to
Mm.
then coach other people on it. You often have those clients come in that are experiencing that within their own lives. Like I helped you with the elements of that
Mm.
too, right? And
So
so
much.
it's so beautiful to see that evolution. And I'm sure you have moments where you're like, oh, I remember that. I remember that pain. I remember that fear. I remember that conflict and not knowing what to do about it. And now you have the tools. I imagine that you approach the situations now very differently.
Yeah, very much so.
So
Mm.
good. So,
Yeah.
talk to us through what is some of the surprising things that you see when it comes to the leaders doing this type of work. Is there anything that comes up in the organizations or any of the leaders that you work with that you notice that is almost like surprising to them? They're like, oh, I can't believe that this is something that is coming to the surface for me with regards to leadership.
Oh, definitely. People pleasing surprises them.
Yeah.
100%. It really surprises them. Also, the lack of boundaries. So, I find that when they start understanding communication and language, that the lack of boundaries that they had. So, even when I think about large corporate, like I even help them putting together emails and doing different responses. So, they'll send me what they were going to send, and I suggest like, restructure it into, the type of language that will be heard better. And they're so surprised on the different impact that makes exponentially for them. So that's a really big thing that they're always surprised with is that, doing that and also doing the inner work. So when I actually speak to them about doing the simple inner work, not even really deep things that I do work with my private clients, but if I'm in big corporate and I do like a little bit of hypnosis or NLP practice, they're so surprised what that small little activity, I call it, does for their whole lives. And, there's these ripple effects. And, sometimes people will come back to me and say, that activity we went through, this is what came out of it for me. Even just recently, I was at an event this week and I was running authentic confidence workshop for a Chamber of Commerce. And somebody actually had like a complete breakthrough and was crying about the realization that came up. But all I was speaking about is like that inner truth and understanding the stories that you're telling yourself, and that's why you don't have a voice. But then because of the way that they heard it, that realization was just groundbreaking for them. So yeah, it's really interesting, those deeper ones that come up. And like I said, it never used to be like that. I'm sure you would understand that as well. People are really starting to want to understand themselves.
Yeah, which is so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so needed. And I think that like a lot has evolved for sure. And I still get surprised sometimes though when I have conversations with people and it sounds bad, but like in the mainstream that haven't heard of coaching before,
Oh yeah.
that are completely outside our worlds. There's still times where I'm like, wow, the simplest of little things that we took we take for granted in the coaching space of just simple little mindset tools that we learnt right on coach day one of coach training. Like sometimes we share those types of things and it has like a massive breakthrough for people. Like it still blows my mind that there's still so many people in the world that don't even consider shifting and changing their mindset will help their lives.
No, that's exactly right. And there's one really key tool that I've been surprised with every single time with my clients is that I share a journaling prompt that I do every single day. So every morning I wake up and I do my journaling. And I don't know if you remember, but I was always anti-journaling. F my feelings. So it's taken me a long time to get there. So what I do every morning is to set my intention for the day. I simply write, I choose to be. So I set an intention of the person that I'm choosing to be that day. And then I want. So what do I want to get out of that day? So, I want to make a positive impact when I'm on Christine's podcast, So writing that type of thing every single, and that's all I do because I've only got about 5 minutes. I do a little bit of reading, I do my journaling, and then I get on with my day.
Yeah, I
And
love
the
it.
amount of people that I've shared that with and the impact that it's made on their lives has been extra, just so powerful. And that has surprised me. I
Love it.
know the impact it's had on me, but you always think, oh, other people aren't going to get it, but it really has impacted people because it makes it simple to be able to do that journaling as well. I
Yeah.
think people get a weird concept about they have to write their whole life story when they journal.
Mm.
Mm.
And I think sometimes people are like, well, I don't even know what to write. What do I write? Like,
Yeah, so it's giving them the prompts and then the gratitude. Like if you can think of three grateful things, but just
mm,
make it simple.
yeah. And
I'm grateful I woke up healthy.
yeah. And one of the things too with gratitude, I always find too that I have to remind people of, find something different. Like a lot of people will do their gratitude practice and they write the same thing every single day.
Yeah.
Like that's not helping. That doesn't make you feel grateful. You're like just repetitive and bored. Like it doesn't get you anywhere.
Yeah, make it
The
interesting.
purpose of a gratitude practice is in order for you to generate the feeling of gratitude or appreciation, not just to think it. And I think people get so stuck in their heads about it that actually gratitude is a heart practice. And it's like, how do we get back into our hearts? You've got to feel it.
It's so true. And that's such a good concept as well to remember that you, I got caught up in this very much when I was wanting to push forward in that hustle. And I was just doing all the things I had to do. Okay, I've done my journaling, I've done my workout, I've done, I don't know, whatever other practices that I thought I had to do to get there, but none of it was felt. I was just
Mm,
doing it. So I was
yeah.
still in the doing, I was still in that masculine and pushing because I was just getting it done. I
Yeah.
wasn't
And then you don't
feeling
benefit
it.
from it.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Mm,
that's a really good thing to remember too, that when I do those prompts, I actually feel being that person at that time. So
mm,
I choose to be and I sit with it and feel it. So then I know when I'm not feeling that throughout the day, it's actually a reminder to go, oh, hang on, no, I'm
yeah.
going to actually get back there.
Yeah. Because like this is another gripe that I have with sometimes these little practices that people don't truly understand. And it sounds judgy, but I'm going to say it.
Good.
Is that you can meditate first thing in the morning for 5 minutes, but if the rest of your day your thoughts are negative and you're not catching them and you're not addressing those thoughts, so you might spend 5% of the day, but the 95% of your day you're in negative thought patterns, or you're judging yourself, or you're being really harsh onto yourself, or you're stuck in lack, then what you're vibrating and the purpose of that activity is gone. Like it's useless. The whole purpose of that activity is to quieten your mind, to train your brain how to stay present. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you're not taking the time to actually meditate to calm your mind, then the rest of your day is going to be off kilter. So it's one of those things that I think sometimes people go, oh, yeah, but I meditated. And yeah, but what about the rest of the day? Like,
Mm-hmm.
are
I
you
really love
actively
that.
paying attention and observing your thoughts? Which I sometimes feels like it's time consuming, but once you get into the habit of actually practicing it, you're actually training your brain, and that's actually where it's going to serve you. So
Mm.
I love these little practices. So I guess like this next piece of like this evolution, right? Or maybe even actually, I'm going to take it back to if there's someone that's listening and they're a current a leader, so they might have a couple of team members, or maybe they have lots more. What would be, and they want to become a better leader, what would be one of the first practices you would encourage them to do? Like if they just start to recognize, like, hey, I know I really do want to work on my leadership and I want to be better, not only within myself, but also for my team. What's some of the practices you would start to share?
Yeah, so I would ask them to take notice of the way that they speak to their team. So if they've got a team, I would ask them to take notice of the way that they speak to their team. And then that would be the first one. just because like what it's like taking notice of your thoughts, so you start becoming that observer of your mind. I'd also ask them to write down those journaling prompts, because then they choose to be. So I choose to be an impactful leader, or I choose to be an empathetic leader, whatever leader they want to be. So we would have already had that discussion about, what type of leader do you want to be? And then they would do those journaling prompts every day. And the third thing that I would suggest for them to do is really start taking note of what their aligned values are. So what I mean by aligned values is like that inner value. And an example I always give of that is, a really strong value of mine is family, but that's on the outside. My family's on the outside. So my aligned value of that is connection and love. So my values are connection and love, because you can feel that. Does
Mm.
that make sense? So I really ask them to find five of those aligned values, and that can be, it can be quite a few sessions work if you don't understand what that means. And I find that once they know what that is, then they can take more notice of what their brain is doing. And then they can take more notice of who they're choosing to be every day, because they understand who they want to be. Does that make
Mm.
sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think sometimes when you're busy and you've got so much on your plate, you can get stuck being reactive really
Mm,
quickly. And then, like as you were talking, even just like speaking to your team, like I've run teams before. I managed teams of 20, 25, and I had times where I was so stressed, so overwhelmed that I was just reactionary all the time. And
mm,
it wasn't until one of my team members picked it up and actually I heard them saying something to another team member about how I don't even smile and welcome them in the morning. And
mm,
I was like, don't I? What? No, of course I do. And then I like played over like my week in my head and was like, oh my God, I've been so stressed that as soon as people get to work, I'm like, get to work. Right. And
mm,
I was like, that's not the
hmm.
type of leader that I want to be. I don't want to be someone that's like so harsh and not even smile in the morning. It really was a wake up call for me. It was like, oh, I need to learn how to deal and handle my stress better so that I can show up and be the leader that I really want to be in this workplace, because that's not going to get me the outcome that I'm looking for. And I also don't want to be that type of person because that's not enjoyable for me. It's not fun. I love to see the potential in people and nurture the potential in people. But if they think that I'm already in a grumpy mood right from day dot from 9 a.m., they're not going to
Hmm.
be open to wanting to be, to reach their potential.
They've got their guards up ready to protect.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%. So I love
yeah.
that you shared that. Like, even just the defining what type of leader you do want to be is a
Mm.
great wake up call and just an opportunity to be in that observer's seat.
Mm,
So
yeah, very much
impactful.
so. And I often speak about, and I guess this goes deeper into work with them, but I often speak about the drama triangle within your mind though. So not like within the organization, but the persecutor is that person that's always like being the mean girl in your head. You never get it right. You can't control your team, whatever that is. And then the victim, and I know victims so well because that's where I lived for so long. Like, oh, this is always happening to me. Why is this? Why is my team like this? Like all that ridiculousness. And the rescuer is that people pleaser, right? The leader that's doing that external validation to try and get their team to do it, but there's no boundaries, so they don't respect them.
And they
And
go in
then
and they do it for them instead of actually teaching them how. Yeah.
yes. And so then becoming an observer of that, you notice when you're in there, because we're all human, we're going to be in that drama triangle. So that's also that radical responsibility, isn't it? Take ownership to know that you are going to slip into that because you're human, but you also can become the observer and you can catch it and reframe it and change it.
I love
Yeah.
that. I love
Mm,
that. And it's such a beautiful concept. And it may be something that people have never heard before. So if you don't know what we're talking about, look into the drama triangle. It's a simple psychology tool,
mm.
and it helps you really realize where you're sitting. And yeah, I get it. We can either be one of all three, we could be all three.
All three at once.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, it's such an interesting space in that development space of like really willing to look at yourself and be like, how can I be better? And
Mm.
it's also a self personal development journey because
Oh,
as you evolve,
so
your
good.
team evolves around you. And I think that if you're having problems with your team, acknowledge like what is the actual problem and how are you portraying that problem. Like a lot of
Mm.
the time it starts with you. That's why I always say fish rots from the head,
Yeah,
and
I
do that
love
from a
that.
place of
I have to
self,
write that down.
yeah. It's honestly so true. Every time
Yeah,
you see
it's
it, it's
really
like
good.
you like look back at the leader, like, oh, they're perpetuating that drama. They love drama, so they want to create more drama. Or
And it's true.
yeah, there's so many elements to it. It's so funny. Okay, what part of the leadership space do you also love talking about that maybe we haven't covered just yet?
I think when I think about my framework, so my framework is embody. And so I really like to move my leaders and my business owners through this. And so it's really the energetics. And so E stands for energetics, and that's a big part of presence. So that's something else I really like to speak to, like that executive presence. How do you show up? Do you respect yourself enough to show up with that presence that is respected, because it's different than being around in your gym clothes at home and then turning up at meeting, and that includes being virtually. Are you
Mm,
bringing that executive presence to a virtual meeting? And I run a lot of my meetings virtually, and it takes a lot more energy to be
mm.
able to get that across the screen than it is in person. So that's a really big one that we haven't spoken about that I think is very important. The executive presence, how you're holding yourself, what energy are you bringing to the room? And that's again how you were saying before, that negative, how you didn't even smile and say hello to your team.
Yeah, I was
Like,
in terrible presence. Terrible.
yeah, yeah. So
Stressful, unhappy, grumpy, and I was literally just putting that on my team until I was aware of it.
yeah, exactly. And then also like mindset we've spoken heaps about. Body is another one. So B for in the embody is fueling your body with the movement and the food that's going to give you that opportunity to have that presence, and also the what you're fueling your mind with as well. So body is also what are you saying to yourself to be able to show up the best. And then I think that's everything else. Like ownership is the radical responsibility. Direction is your vision, mission, and values, but yours. And that's the big thing, what is your mission and vision and values instead of what is everybody else's? And
Mm.
then, yeah, you just step into your authentic you when you really claim all of that.
Yeah. And then even bringing that down into your team as well, right? Like one of the
Mm,
things that I was taking a client through the other day was like understanding your values and understanding the business's values and then how you communicate those values to the team so they know how to behave and how to be a part of that because people like values drive all of our behavior. And if we communicate values effectively within a business, it allows a team member to know how to behave within the business and also what to uphold, right? Otherwise, they're just trying to figure out where they fit and how they can be valuable within the team. And I think it's always coming back to too of like how you perceive your employees. Like if you perceive them to be not great at what they do, then they're probably going to live into that existence. Whereas if you see their fullest potential, you can guide them into that. And so,
mm.
yeah, I just love that framework. It's beautiful,
And
beautiful.
being their guide as well, because I've run this such transformational one for corporate. It's a team building one where it is that values based. And so I work with the team to understand their aligned values so then they can see how that matches the company values. So really working with your team to learn and have that growth mindset as well, instead of just you, let them have that as well, that follow on. So yeah, I love how you say that.
Love it. Beautiful. So, can you share with us how we can find out more about you, where we can work with you? So, if anyone's listening, they can check you out.
Yeah, so I have an excellent performance membership for business owners and entrepreneurs and leaders, and that's called Elevate Her. So you can find that it's just on my website, or it will be Christine will be sharing that one with you as well. Or you can go to dannivee.com. I'm on Instagram at Danni Vee Coach, and also on Facebook the same.
Amazing. Well, I'll make sure I put all the notes in all the links in the show notes so people can check you out. But definitely share this across your social media and let us know what you took away from today's episode. Thank you so much for sharing your beautiful wisdom and your heart with us today. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you
being a
so
part of the
much.
podcast.
It's been wonderful to be here. Thank you, Christine.
Thank you for listening. And if you found any value out of this episode, make sure you hit the follow button so you get access to the episodes as soon as they are live. And make sure you come hang out with me on Instagram. You can find me at Christine Corcoran _coach. Have an incredible week.